This is live. This is real. This is not something I've done for 3 years. So thank you all for joining us for our first in-person AGM in 3 years. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you, and also a pleasure to still have the opportunity to connect with those of you who are connecting online, because I know sometimes that's what's needed. So we're glad to bring those tools forward into our work. On behalf of this fabulous staff team of the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, it's my honor to thank you all for your support over the past year and for your support going forward. It is incredibly motivating to us to know that you're standing behind us and you have our backs as we push for solutions for Lake Winnipeg. So thank you. We could not do it without you. This year marks a really exciting new beginning for us with the launch of a brand new 5-year strategic plan. This strategic plan we started working on it back in 2021, so it's been a long time coming, and it's the result of an incredible amount of hard work on the part of our dedicated board of directors and our committed staff team. This is a plan that leverages our strength, our extensive experience, our focus on evidence, and our optimism about solutions for the lake. And it sets 4 overarching goals for us for the next 5 years. We're going to build our membership, strengthen our advocacy, improve the evidence available for decision making, and ensure our organization is resilient into the future. So tonight, I'm going to focus on our advocacy goal, and we're lucky to have Chelsea, our programs director, here. She's going to talk about our evidence goal. These are 2 goals that we've been really active on in the last year, and that we're excited to carry forward into our work in 2023. Before I dive into it, just a quick note on Canadian charities and advocacy generally. Some of you may have heard of the charity chill, or the 10% rule that limited the activity that charities could engage in, the political activity and the advocacy that they could do. This was a legal limitation, very real legal limitation, that was in place from the early 2000s, and it culminated in around 2012 with the launch of a series of high-profile political activity audits of Canadian charities. These audits could drag on for years. They were incredibly costly and draining. They were demoralizing for staff, and ultimately they could result in a charity having their status revoked by the CRA. So understandably, many charities backed away from advocacy, and that was the charity chill. We were scared to do it. But not a little organization in Ottawa called Canada Without Poverty. They challenged this rule in court and they won. And so in 2018, the court decided that that 10% rule violated the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And ultimately, that rule was removed from the Canadian Income Tax Act, and now charities are allowed to undertake unlimited public policy dialogue and development activities. So this is a great success for us. And here at LWF, we're really leaning into our advocacy work because we understand that policy solutions are what are required for Lake Winnipeg. Over the coming year, our advocacy is going to be focused on 2 areas, which, as I've said, we've been working on in the past year as well. You may recognize this from a report that we sent out in advance of the Winnipeg city election last year. We're advocating for phosphorus compliance at Winnipeg's North End Water Pollution Control Center. And we continue to advocate the city on this going forward. We also recognize an opportunity to engage the province, given that there is a provincial election coming up later this year. We've made some great progress on this issue. Last July, City Council approved a new design for the chemical phosphorus reduction solution that makes the solution more efficient, so it will reduce phosphorus further and reduce the sludge that's produced through that process. And they also approved a new design for increased capacity for the biosolids facility, which will help the chemical phosphorus reduction solution work more efficiently. And then earlier this year, just in fact, a month or so ago, it was in the news that this solution is already working incredibly well at the South End treatment plant. So we found out that since August of 2022, the South End treatment plant has been meeting its phosphorus limit using the chemical reduction method. In fact, it's been blowing past its phosphorus limit. So instead of being at 1 milligram per liter, it's often at 0.1 milligrams per liter. So this is an incredible success of that solution. Recently, we also saw elected officials take even more interest in this file than they have in the past, which is a great opportunity because elected officials need to listen to voters, and they especially need to listen to voters in an election year. Last month, Minister Kevin Klein, who was formerly a city councillor, announced a new wastewater task force. He will chair the task force, and he's appointed Councillor Brian Mays from the city as vice chair. So they'll be working together on solutions. And I'm also really excited that Dr. Michael Patterson, who's a senior research scientist at the Experimental Lakes area, was appointed to this task force as well, because ELA research is critical in our understanding of the role of phosphorus in causing algal blooms and how to manage that. In the last couple of weeks, LWF and our partners have also had the opportunity to meet face-to-face with both the Premier and the Mayor, and I'm excited to report that they're both very supportive of the solutions that we've been putting forward. They are both interested in finding an evidence-based solution for phosphorus compliance, and they also want to find one that's economically feasible because they recognize that cost barriers have prevented us from moving forward on this issue for far too long. So at the city level, there's an opportunity in the upcoming multi-year budget, which is going to be the city's budget from 2024 to 27. We want to ensure that councillors approve the funding required for increased biosolids capacity as part of that budget approval. So we'll be putting out templates and opportunities for you to engage on that. And at the provincial level, we're asking that they recognize that phosphorus is the cause of algal blooms, because we all know we've been distracted by far too many other concerns that aren't evidence-based and that have prevented us from moving forward. So we want to ask the province to officially amend the North End Treatment Plant license to ensure that phosphorus compliance is put in place and sustained as part of the phase 2 upgrade. Here are some ways that you can help us get this message across. Email your councillor, your MLA, submit a letter to the editor, get more people talking about this issue. And throughout, check our website for updates, because as this file develops, we'll be sharing new information. We'll have advocacy templates for you available, so stay in touch. Our second advocacy opportunity this year is at the federal level, and you might recognize this from a postcard that we sent you all with your newsletter last year, asking the Federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change to renew federal funding for Lake Winnipeg in budget 2023. So thanks to everyone who sent in a postcard, because we were successful. Budget 2023 was released on March 28th, and it included $650 million for freshwater protection to be spent over 10 years. And critically important, Lake Winnipeg was one of 8 watersheds listed in that commitment, so there will be dedicated funding coming to Lake Winnipeg as part of that, though we don't know the total amount yet. We also learned in the budget that a new Canada Water Agency will be established in Winnipeg in the coming year. So we have tangible evidence of the success of our advocacy, but we also know that this is just the beginning. We have the funding in place, and now we have 10 years to generate impact with that funding. Luckily, here at LWF, we have just the information that's needed to make sure that that funding gets directed at phosphorus hotspots. And tonight, we're lucky to have Chelsea here to talk to us about the Lake Winnipeg community-based monitoring network and how we're connecting data and decision makers. We also want to ensure that Indigenous peoples have the resources that they need to engage meaningfully and fully in water decision-making. We recognize that Indigenous knowledge is critical to the long-term protection of Lake Winnipeg, and we also know that Indigenous people are too often excluded from these conversations. So LWF supports recent calls from the Lake Winnipeg Indigenous Collective and the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, who are asking that the new agency be established as an Indigenous-led agency. This will fulfill, in part, Canada's commitment to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and it will also address the long-standing and glaring absence of Indigenous leadership and Indigenous knowledge within federal water initiatives. You can help us here too. We're going to be launching another postcard campaign this summer, which is going to be a thank you postcard to Minister Guilbeault for his funding commitment, and another little nudge to just let him know that we're watching and we want to be sure that that funding generates the impact that we're looking for. You can also email your local MP and let them know that Lake Winnipeg continues to be incredibly important to you. And like opportunities like tonight, engage others, talk to your friends and family who are also lake lovers, because the more of us that are speaking up together, the stronger that our voice is. I know it can seem daunting. These are big challenges and they require big solutions, but when we come together, we become a chorus and each of our voices is strengthened. And that's really what our members do, is bring our messages to the broader public awareness. So I thank you very much for all of that support that you offer, and I look forward to the work ahead for the next year.